My name's Jordan Villarreal, and I'm developer advocate here at OpsMill. And today we're going to be talking about our understanding of schemas and what role they play inside of Infrahub. So, as part of that conversation, we're going to talk really quickly about what we mean by a schema, and we're going to introduce the idea of flexibility and briefly talk about why that matters. After that, we're going to get into some schema design basics, where we'll introduce the concepts of a node, our namespaces, and attributes. So, what do we mean when we say schema? And very broadly, it's how you define your data structure. So, inside of Infrahub, your schema is the structure and the relationships of your data within your environment. Now, that doesn't mean individual devices like the router at your warehouse named warehouse primary router, or a firewall at your headquarters named HQ firewall. Really, what we're talking about is more of it's a blueprint that's going to outline the different types of objects. So it's not the named firewall, it's network devices, which could be routers or switches, or maybe it's a storage array, or it's an organizational site. Your schema is comprised of the larger building blocks that are used throughout your environments, the attributes that are associated with them, and how they're related to each other. Very important part of being very important part of this schema is that it's flexible, or at least we find that they work best when they're flexible. Why does that flexibility matter? So, as your business changes over time, your needs are going to change over time. This could be something as part of an acquisition. You've acquired a business and they're using a different tool that you need to bring into your environment now. Just logically, you need to bring their data, their design, and merge that in with your data. When you have a flexible schema, it allows you to take those data points, that blueprint, and merge it into yours without the need for any change. Or let's say this is a tooling migration from an outdated tool. It's not supported anymore, but you want a tool that you'll be able to match your old data into the new system. This flexible schema would let you customize it to match your old data. Or let's say you're driving more into automation and now you're discovering all of these additional data points that are out there, and they currently live as some kind of custom field in a different application. It would be better if they were treated as first party citizens within your data model. So that way you don't have to worry about a custom field. You can take your business data and make it a first class citizen. And that's the flexibility that you have inside of Infrahub when you look at the flexible schema in there. You can customize it and change it over time to meet your needs. So very quickly, before we start designing a basic schema, we're going to log in and take a look at what the schema looks like inside of Infrahub. We'll log in using admin as our username and Infrahub as our password. And once we're in, we'll navigate to where we see our device and the site that we're going to be building in our example schema. So for a device, we have some attributes in here already assigned. We have a name, which must be unique, a description, and a type of device here. And then for our site, we have a city, an address, and a contact. Now we're going to look at what actually makes a schema, what components are involved to build one out. The basic components that we'll be looking at are a node and an attribute. We'll look at those two together. After that, we'll look at a namespace real quickly and see what that brings us. And we have these other components down here, a relationship and a generic. We'll save those for a later video. Here is a very basic schema where we've set up two different node types. We'll have our network device as one type, and then the attributes that go along with each individual object that you would create inside of Infrahub. So every time you make a network device, it will have fields available for these attributes. We'll have a host name in here. It's just a standard host name for a device. And then we also have a model number in here. So what is the model number of that router or that switch? Our other node type is an organizational or an organization site. And that is, for the purposes of this demo, a physical building, we can think of it. Now we can see the kind on each of these are text. That's going to be freeform text entry. We do have some other types available, some other kinds available. We'll get into that momentarily. You can also see with the network device, we're enforcing uniqueness within the host name, and we'll see how that looks inside the Infrahub UI. In my terminal window down here, you can see that I have a command line brought up running a virtual environment. This is where I'm going to launch a tool called Infrahub CTL out of the Infrahub SDK. Now we'll set that up in a different video so you get a better, more in-depth understanding on how this tool operates. But for today, we're just going to be using this to load this demo schema into an empty Infrahub environment that's running on this same box. We get the message back letting us know that it has been loaded. We'll switch over to this Infrahub environment. Go ahead and log in using the default credentials, admin and Infrahub. If you need help on learning how to spin up an Infrahub environment for demo or testing purposes, we can link you to a video where I've set that up previously. Once Infrahub is loaded, we'll go into Schema, Explore Schema. You'll notice there's a good number of things already in the schema. These are core to the basic Infrahub operations. As we collapse these, we'll find our network device node type and our organization node type, our site node type. When I click on device, we can see the basic properties and our attributes. We have a host name that must be unique and a model number that does not need to be unique. And if we click over to organization, we'll see that we have our site properties as well, and then the attributes we created. Now that we've verified that the two node types are created, let's go ahead and look at the documentation and understand how we can expand our schema. We'll start by going to our documentation site, which you can find at docs.infrahub.app. We're going to go into Topics, down to Schema, and then as we scroll down through Schema, we'll start to see where node, attribute, relationship, generic, and namespace are spelled out in some greater detail. But what we're looking for on this page are the attribute kinds. You can see a list here with text at the top like we used in our basic schema example. But we have many other options in here that help you customize your schema in a way that makes sense for your environment. To expand on our schema, we'll add a number to the device. We'll use that to track like firmware version. And then we'll do an email address to site. So we'll just have the contact name. We can also have their email as well. With those two attributes added, we'll save and run our import command again. Now, when we go back to our Infrahub and refresh our schema page, we can find our network device again with the new attribute. Same for the organization site. The last thing I'll mention here are the namespaces. So you can see within our schema, we defined the network namespace and the organization namespace. And inside the visualizer, you see those represented here. Namespaces serve several different uses inside of Infrahub, but one of those, which we're seeing right here, is to avoid name overlap. So if you wanted to have a network device, you could, and then if you wanted to have a security device or an IoT device, you could separate those into their different namespaces and make sure that you don't have collisions or overlaps. Schema design is a topic that you really want to take your time with and make sure that you understand what it is that you're putting together. This is going to be how your information is collected. And granted, the flexible schema does allow you to make changes, so you can definitely iterate, as we talked about earlier, but it's still something that you want to make sure that you're putting good thought into. Hopefully this video has been a great primer to get you set up for success when it comes to designing your schema inside of Infrahub. Thank you for watching and have a good day.